So they've got Jon Brett. Jon has quite the career as an executive and non-executive director, and he's going to be part of the panel discussion on the 27th, titled "What Makes a Great Lawyer? A Client's Perspective." Jon, welcome. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Thanks, Hugh. I'll give you a bit of my background first. I spent about 12 years in Investec Wentworth Private Equity. Was part of the Investec group. It was a fantastic time of my career. We had about $500 million of funds under management, and we did about 22 transactions. Most were successful, more successful than not successful. And subsequently to leaving the private equity, I sat on the board of a number of public companies. I write a column for the CFO magazine. I present to the CFO conferences for their conferences. And also I was part of the original part of WABSX, which mentors women who are at the top of their corporate career who want to transition to board roles.
So you were mentioning, as we were discussing a bit more before, that you had quite a good story that probably will lead into this event quite well around what it is that makes a really good lawyer.
So I can tell you what I think makes a good lawyer, but before we get onto that, I was invited to a farewell function. I've got a very good friend of mine who resigned from one of the top legal firms in Australia. He was in M&A, and they told the story, and they had the whole firm there, and they told the story about what happened to him. And one of the big Hong Kong groups came to Australia to buy a company, and he was working for the seller. And they gave an unbelievable deadline. They said 2 weeks' time on Friday night, the transaction has to close. My client gets back to Hong Kong on Saturday morning, announces it to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange on Monday morning. And my friend said, look, we can meet that timetable. We'll work to meet that timetable, but let me tell you my timetable. 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, I'm finished. This transaction's got to be done by 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. You've got to understand that. Not Friday night, 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. If it's not finished by 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, we can continue Saturday night, but that's it. You all understand? And they said yes. And for the next 2 weeks, he reminded them of his deadline. And comes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week, he keeps reminding them, and on Thursday, they pull an all-nighter. Him and his firm pull an all-nighter. They get every document ready, and they phone the opposing lawyers to say, listen, you know, we need to finish this by 4 o'clock today. We really, a few more things we need to discuss. We need to finish it. The opposing lawyers don't answer their phone. They don't take his call. And 4 o'clock comes around, and he says, I am going home. Phone is going off. As I promised, the phone is going off, and I'm going home. Puts his phone off. Saturday night, he switches on his phone, and there are 30 missed calls. Where are you, etc. And he phones up. He says, I will meet you at your premises to finish this transaction. And he arrives on Saturday night, and there's 30 people in the room, including the whole group from Hong Kong. And the opposing lawyers say to him, by the way, you have messed this transaction up. Our clients are supposed to be back in Hong Kong this morning with their families, and you switched off your phone at 4 o'clock. He said, look, I'm not apologizing. I told you that was going to happen. We worked through the night. We were ready. You didn't answer the phone call. We're here now. You want to finish this transaction or not? Let's finish it. Anyway, they finished the transaction, and you could have cut, he says, the room was so tense, but they finished the transaction, and they go back to Hong Kong, and they go back late to Hong Kong. They announce it but a day later, they announce it to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. 3 months later, he gets a phone call from the Hong Kong client. And the Hong Kong client say as follows: we love your ethics. We love the way you work. We want you to be our new lawyer and want you to represent us in all the transactions we do in Australia. The other legal firm phoned him up and said to him, I've just lost my biggest client. You behaved unethically. Didn't note a word. He said, I'm really sorry, but I didn't phone them. I didn't solicit them. They phoned me. They wanted me, and I accepted it. And when he left, which was 15 years later, they'd become the biggest client by a long way, and they managed to build a firm to a really huge firm based upon this huge Hong Kong client. At his farewell party, they invited this Hong Kong client to the farewell party, and they wrote a fantastic note about the experience in working with him, and that they weren't able to fly in from Hong Kong because they had another deal on, etc. But it goes to show what makes a good lawyer, and why does he get the business from the existing lawyer. And I had the exact same experience with him when we bought Vocus. We bought Vocus, we used him as our lawyers. He was acting on our side. Finished the transaction, the Vocus CEO phones me and says, "Can we use him as our lawyer from here on in?" What makes a great lawyer?
No, that's fantastic. Like that takes a lot of guts to me to be able to do that.
It takes an enormous amount of guts and character.
Yeah.
And character. And the point is, as he said to me, he said, it's not like I told him on Friday at 4 o'clock. He says, I told them on 2 weeks before. I'd given them ample notice, and I'd worked through the night to make sure this would happen. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Jon, I can't wait to hear what you have to say on the 27th. Thank you very much for that, and thank you very much for joining me today. We will see you at the next HUBL event.